states and all that kind of stuff can come later. And this room really goes the full gamut of material. So right now we're going to attempt the interview, and you tell me how long you'd like that for, and I'll stick to it. We'll try to have a beginning, middle, and end. And while you're giving us your answer, I'm going to go get my coffee out of the microwave.
Okay, Joel, thanks for that. Seems like a very open room. I don't know how long the introduction should really be for. Perhaps half an hour would be good, if you can work around half an hour, and then I'll be very, very glad to answer any questions if I can, if I have the capacity within me to answer any questions, because one thing I've realized is when questions come to me on anything and my answer emerges from within me, I'm actually teaching myself something quite good, so quite great and wonderful, because I've never encountered those questions before perhaps. Sometimes I have, and sometimes I know what the answer is, but quite often I will draw from within myself a revelation. Is like a spontaneous knowing of, hey, I already know that, and thanks for the question, because you know that person actually sparked something within me that was able to flow through me, and in the hearing of my own voice or in the expression, I was able to remember it within myself. So I find questions and answers are very, very helpful, and I would actually encourage anybody in the room or who's listening on the radio to encourage your own inner expression to come through. So when people ask questions, your innate capacity, your inner knowing, your true knowledge, your reality field can actually start to flow through you uninhibited, because when someone asks a question, they become an empty vessel. They obviously are wanting an answer, and unless they're cantankerous and they're being sort of sarcastic, but if they're sort of wanting an answer, something from within you would flow forth, and it would flow right into them. And as it flows into those who are receptive, what you find within yourself is an expression and a flow of knowledge and information comes through you, and it enlivens you, and it actually builds your knowledge base back up, and you can actually remember what you already know. So that's one of the things I like to teach, and it's one of the things I love to know in myself, because you know we're all communicators, and we have everything that's already known deep within us, and it expresses through as we allow it to flow into a receptive vessel. So that's great. Come on up there. If you've come back from the microwave and your coffee there already, Joel, yeah, about half an hour would be good for an intro, and any questions afterwards I'll be glad to attempt to bring them forth as sort of revelatory, inspirational words that might come forth through me, and let's hope that some healing comes through the questions and through the answers, because that's what it's all about. It's all about that. It's all about us awakening to our true potentials and experiencing and actualizing those wonderful capacities that we have within us to know who we are. And that's the amazing thing. I love it, you know. I love it. And I've been using this kind of technology for a long, long time. That, you know, you already have everything within you. It's already there, knocking at the doorway. And when someone asks a question and they are sincere, you will flow as a river of information, and it will wash through the receptor sites of your self-identity, and you shall inform yourself of how wonderful and beautiful you are. So come on up there. Welcome to my story. I thank you for that, and yeah, just go ahead, fire some questions. It'd be great. Hand over the mic.
Well, thank you. You can call me Joel if you'd like. My stage name when I'm doing stuff like this is Joel T. Bridges. And if anybody feels like it, go and Google that, put that in quotated marks, and you'll see how involved I've been for a while. Got a lot of different projects. This room is one more, and I like the metaphysical stuff, and I like doing interviews, so thank you for giving me the opportunity. Since we've got a half an hour before we go to questions, let's start the half an hour about now. Never mind the actual introduction here. Perhaps you could take us back to your programming and conditioning. Oh, by the way, did you type what I needed? Nancy, I said, would you please type your full name and post the URL for your book and the name of the book. That means that every so often I'm going to probably inject and tell the folks out there, you know, who I'm talking to and what your URL is and what the name of the book is. And that will be very helpful for me. Okay? That'd be great. The other thing, okay, let's start at the beginning. For myself, I awoken one day to find out, started getting an inkling that I was being program conditioned and I was accepting an awful lot of stuff and making beliefs out of it. Where does your programming conditioning come and where did you start waking up? Perhaps you could describe that for us.
That's a very good question because as a child I was very much aware of a deep inner reality of something not of this world. And I had amazing daydreams and I had visions and I had a wonderful sense of imagination. And that was sort of shut down. I felt a burden come upon me. When I was about the age of 15 or 16, I felt a deep burden come on me to uphold the expectations of this world. My upbringing in my household was very liberal. In actual fact, my parents were people who said, you know, you have everything given to you, you can do what you want, and they were very wonderful parents who allowed a lot of liberty in expression growing up. But when the hard things of this world struck, I think I was about 15 or 16, and I felt on my shoulders like an immense burden coming down on me, and I suddenly realized that I had to carry this burden. This was something that was given to me to carry, and my youthful vitality sort of slowly came to an end within myself, and I felt it really encroaching upon me around about that age. And then I saw the burden of having to go to work, get a job, then eventually married, raise a family, and I sort of went into a world of compaction and compliance. And even in those times I felt like a resistance within me to authority, and I thought, you know, what is this? And people around me kept on telling me, you know, look, just go along, you can't fight City Hall, you just got to keep going along, you just got to keep going, and you got to work, you know, and you got to bring money in, you got to start getting a family together, you got to start thinking along that kind of way. Well, my liberation from that came perhaps in about 1994, when I was in business, and I had a pretty good business. A partner and I built a textile business. We imported a lot of machinery from Italy, and we had letters of credit coming in from the bank, and we imported yarn. We imported a lot of machinery. We developed a factory, and what actually happened was, you know, it was a very, very extensive learning curve, employing a lot of people, and that sort of thing. And around about that time, all of a sudden my world collapsed. Now, I was a married man, I had 2 children, business, we were turning over about $3 million a year, employing 19 people, we were working 7 days a week, with a very, very strong growth curve in the business. And suddenly, around about 94, my world collapsed. Which I say, well, thank God my world collapsed, in term of expression. Thank God my world collapsed, because at that time I realized that I had been participating in a false world. I had been participating in a world of controls and machinations, expectations, limitations. I was working by the sweat of my brow, and I was just complying to society and what had been modelled for me. And I wasn't free within myself to express the liberty of my own reality. And at that time, everything collapsed around me, you know. Everything collapsed around me. My marriage broke up. My business went into bankruptcy. My children were going crazy. They were teenagers at the time, and they started, you know, just going completely sort of haywire. And I became a very broken man. A very broken man. And in the brokenness, in the depths of my being, in my despair, in my crushing, I felt something else working. There was something else working within me. Something very, very, very deep, beyond the sky falling in on me, beyond the world collapsing. There was also something very, very powerful transforming within me. And I came into a period of, you might say, deep weeping. Weeping and weeping and weeping. And the weeping was through my eyes and through tears and through my emotional body. And it seemed to be like connected to my gut. It was like right down deep in my gut. I can remember times where I would go down into the cellar of my house and I would be crying out to God with sincerity. I'd be crying out, say, God, if you're real, show yourself to me. If there's such a thing, I feel so crushed and so distraught and so destroyed. What the hell is going on? And it was in those times of sincerity and calling out to some supportive reality that may be beyond my world, that I actually started to connect with something quite powerful within myself. It was quite a wonderful experience I had within myself. And I had beautiful visions of, you might say, past incarnational memories of existence where I had a great deal more capacity within myself, where I was able to do things in a greater degree, a greater level. I had more ability. And that was sort of like where I started off back in 94, and it worked through to about 96. I ended up going to a church actually about 96, and I spent 10 years in a church. And right from the time I went into the church, I realized there was something quite, lovely about the idea, and yet there was something quite off. It was off. My inner reality, my experience of this awakening within me was far more true than what was being taught in the church. And I grew my experiences through the church, withstanding the oppression and the condemnation of the fellowship. I sort of grew very, very strong. And some of the words that came to me through the inner knowing were words like this. You are a young sapling. You are an oak tree. A young sapling. Don't speak up yet, but weather the storm in the midst of the church, and when your strength comes, nothing will cut you down. And so these were the sort of feelings I had within me as I grew through the church system. And then I came out of the church system into my own spiritual awakening and writing and desiring to know what the actual message was. What is the spiritual message of awakening? What's it all about? And through my inquiring and my persistence, and through my determination to find some result within myself, what happened was I started to get inner revelations and empowerment, and started to get alignments within my, you might say, spiritual structure. And I rose up into a capacity of strengthening myself, transcending doctrines of men, transcending the limitations of this world, and aligning myself with greater and greater knowledge and understanding of what this spiritual reality was that I was seeking. And it came to me in great chunks and great levels and revelations, and it came to me onward and onward and onward. And that's when I started writing books and building websites and things like that, because I realized that, when I sensed this inner reality, it was very, very real to me, was more real than the outer world. I wanted to grasp that. I wanted to take hold on that. I wanted to build that. I wanted to focus on that. I wanted that to transform me, because somehow inherently within me, I knew that this particular energy that was flowing within me had the capacity to transform me and to disconnect all of the other controls from within me. And I persisted and persisted and persisted. So my success in my own revelation now would be determination to not be dragged in to the system, but to transcend the system and rise up above it. So that's just a little bit about my background of my spiritual reality and how things came into my life to cause me to be on the path be on the path of awakening and be on the path of determination to really transcend the limitations of this world, you know. So there you go. So if you want to take that there from there, Joel, you may have another question there. I hope it's sort of answered in some way for you. And the audience, the radio stations out there, whoever's listening, you might find a little bit of encouragement there for yourself as you find yourself going through similar things, you know. Anyway, here I am, hand over the mic. So thanks, Joel. Take it from there.
Yeah, that's interesting because as you were telling your story, I could relate to a lot of what you were talking about, you know, a slightly different background. But we've got to start where we start, right? I mean, all of us come into this world and we are subjected to our caregivers. And we usually accept what our caregivers tell us is the truth, and then at some point we wake up. So, yeah, I could definitely identify with that. How did you go from, let's say, you were opening yourself up now to the possibilities that where you had traveled from was not giving you what it was that you really needed, and opening yourself up to the possibilities that maybe something was wrong and set out to find it. It sounds like you were raised in a religious family. Did that have must have had a lot to do with it, right?
Actually, I was christened as a child, you know, as a little infant in the Anglican or Church of England faith, but none of my parents were going to church. They were sort of like, actually my father was like a confessing atheist, and my mother, she just said, I think everything's going to be okay. And but my auntie, or you know, it was like a friend of the family, we called her auntie, she insisted that I went to a church, and so I did get some you might say teenage years in a church. But from that point on, when I got married and went into the world, I never sort of attended a church. So there was no real church background until about 94, when I sort of, well, at 96 actually, when I went to a church when I was a broken man. And I spent 10 years in a church, really, you know, just sort of trying to find what's going on. But as I progressed from the church arena, the thing that drove me on was when I was baptized in 1997, baptized in water. I came out of that font, or I came out of that baptismal bath with a brand new revelation and an inspiration, and life sprung out of me. And I just couldn't stop talking about the reality of life. And the one thing that encouraged me to be spurred on, and here it is, someone came up to me and said, oh, you know, you're spouting out all this wonderful stuff and everything else, but soon you'll just be like one of us, and you'll turn back and listen to the preacher at the front. And when that happened, I made a determination in myself not to let that happen. In other words, it was like a spiritual warning. Don't become one of the sheep. You've had the inspiration and revelation, you've had the upgushing of the upwelling currents of life. Notify your mind of the brilliance of the possibility of transcending the limitations of this world. Don't stop now. And so when this happened to me, I made a determination within myself not to stop. No, I'm not going to fall back into the fold. I'm not going to fall back into the compliance of the religious order. I'm not going to fall back into the doctrines of dead men. And I'm going to find the inner life within myself continuously and let that work through me. And so regardless of what happened in the church, and I had many trials in the church, I performed many miracles. If people believe in miracles, well, they were healings, put it that way. And people would come to me and say, can you heal me? Can you heal me? And I said, yes, I can heal you. And I would, because a healing really is a shift of time-locked references of your self-identity that suddenly get blown away by a new revelation. And I was able to access people's, like you might say, archives of their distortion and bring down into their lives a revelation of their true identity on a certain aspect. And I could do that very easily because I was sort of connected into a higher mind. And I was doing that all the time, and I decided to myself, I'm going to do that kind of thing continuously. And what happened was, I was reading the Bible actually, and I heard the voice of God, or the inner revelatory voice of your own self. It spoke to me, and it said, Grant, do you just want to do all of the gifts of the Spirit that are written in the Bible? And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, there's a far greater thing than just those gifts that are written in the Bible. I said, well, what is it? He said, the fullness of the stature of Him. In other words, there is a fullness, there's an attainment that you can have that transcends all limitations. And you're not going to have just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. You can experience the whole unity mind. You can experience the whole recollection of, you might say, the God mind or the creative energy or whatever you want to call it. You can actually bring that back into yourself right now, and you can start to build yourself up again, and you can overcome death in your body. And I said, well, that's what I want then. I want to be able to overcome the death in the body, which is, this is the teachings that I've been learning now through what I've advanced onto. I've been connected into a lot of other different higher dimensional teachings which transcend anything I've ever known on the planet, and I can look on the internet and nothing comes near it. It's something which is the original creation science, the original creation physics, the original creation reality that creates all things. And me realizing that we're living in a world of distortion gave me the possibility to rectify the distortions within the templates of my own hologram. And I said, I want to do that. I want to learn how to overcome death in the body and what causes the atomic structure of my body, which has a half-life, to be in a constant state of decay and dilapidation. I want to reinvigorate my atomic structure and bring the life flows back into my anatomy and overcome death in the body, and take it up into light rather than lay it down to dust. And that's been my whole purpose, really, from the beginning of my learning, has been a progressive unfolding and unfurling of knowledge and wisdom of what actually Jesus demonstrated. If you're going to look at the biblical story, what did He demonstrate? He said, my kingdom's not of this world, I'll see you later. And transcended the limitations of the containment that holds us all here by utilizing a higher mind. And I said, I want that higher mind too. I want that to utilize, I want to utilize that higher mind and run that through me to actually transfigure the atomic structure of my anatomy. And I want to upgrade myself and get out of here, because I can see this is a dilapidated planet. And it is, So this became a reality to me. And that's what my book's about, and it points towards it. It points towards the technology that's coming into the planet at this time to give people the understanding of how they can come out of the entrapment of the minds of dead men that control this planet and come back into the living structure that will bring your consciousness into ascension and transcendence of the limitations. So it's quite wonderful, and I actually love it. I can't stop talking about it. Whatever I'm doing, wherever I am, I'm constantly focused on my own ascension, my own transformation, my own transfiguration, my own... it's not an escape from here and leaving everyone behind. It's like I'm gaining the healing codes so that I can extend the healing frequencies to others, because we're all connected. We're all connected as one wholeness. And if one rises up, surely it will be transferred to all others, and there'll be a certain process involved in that. And I want to know how to do it, and I want to be part of it. And I'm sure that a lot of people really want to know how to get out of the bind that we're in here on this planet. And so that's part of it, So anyway, I hand over the mic to Joel. I noticed there's someone else coming up onto the mic. So that's quite wonderful and beautiful. So here you go. I hand over.
So basically, you have a background of religious upbringing. You talked about God. As you know, we're in the metaphysical field under Paltalk, and God sometimes doesn't have to be part of the metaphysics. Metaphysics is talking about the invisible, and it looks like you're also talking about the invisible. So a lot of people, God is invisible, and we see the effects, of course, course. So let's stick with the word God if you're comfortable with it. Some people are not very comfortable with it. As a matter of fact, their minds are very biased against the idea of a God. And that's probably because they have a certain idea of what God is supposed to be or is, or take somebody else's word for it. Perhaps you could define for us what you mean by using the word God, seeing as how if you had 100 people and were asking what that word was, or what God was for them, they would be coming up with slightly different answers that could be as diametrically as opposed as water and ice, which really aren't that much different. But again, perhaps you could tell us what you mean by the word God.
Yes, and this is one of the things that's very important when you're addressing people, because the word God can be offensive to a lot of people because it has certain connotations. It has certain connotations of some being lording it over you and controlling you. Well, that's not what I mean. I use the word God very easily because it's something that springs to mind through my own knowledge. But it does not mean any dominant figure. It does not mean any controlling figure or any father sitting on a throne judging anybody for their sin consciousness. No, it doesn't mean that. My understanding of God means, you might say, God source consciousness field or creative energy matrix. How about something that's undifferentiated, it's sort of outside of all matter manifestation, it's totally powerful and wonderful and beautiful, and it works through all time, space, matter manifestations and templates of creation. In other words, if you can look at yourself now, God's source, or creation energy, is working through you as an expression of itself. You are the offspring or the stepped down operator on the stage of life that is connected to this creative energy, and you also, being a participator on the stage of life, are attributing certain aspects of you might say experience, filing those memories into an archive of unity consciousness that can be shared by other members participating in events or advents on the stage of life. And there are many, many different densities on this stage of life. In other words, if you wanted to say to yourself, here you are on this planet Earth. This planet has a very major distortion field, and we're acting in aberration. Many of us on the planet are acting in slight disconnection or major disconnection from this creative energy. And we have other energies running in our templates that cause us to act in aberration or disharmonic frequencies, and we're causing distortion fields, and we're causing duality, and many, many things on this planet that you see and witness here are the result of shutdown mechanisms in the holographic field of your own perception in relationship to the connection to the creative energy. So I would see God as being the creative energy that's not a God sitting on a throne judging anyone for their sin consciousness, but would rather be the energy that offers to you the availability of opportunities to demonstrate to yourself what you are. And there's no limitation to what you can or cannot do, although there are certain laws in place regarding physics that would be energetic exchanges that would be repercussions to what you would do. In other words, if you created, it's like cause and effect. If you created through your mind and thought and intention to create a devastation on the earth, well, your mind and intention is devastation, and that would be the repercussion, that would be the ramification. That would be something that will come back to you in some time sequence. You may not be totally aware of it immediately, but it could come back at a future time. So what you give away comes home to stay. That's what I'm saying. So God would be to me the creative energy that works through all matrices of time and space in the different densities of expression of life on the stage that we all enjoy here in some form or another. So yeah, there are distortions in the templates of creation, and there are thoughts of separation that hold many of us away from the true connections into this powerful creative energy that would cause us to create the joy and the beauty and the goodness that we would truly desire to experience in our reality. And you know, it's not just like a God. I mean, it's not the Christian idea of a God. It's not the religious idea of a God. It is the creative energy that flows through. And I would say that Jesus actually did demonstrate a communication with the liberty and the freedom of expression of the union that he had with this creative energy to pour it forth into the earth to demonstrate many miracles and much love and things like this. And so many people in the world have demonstrated the same thing and are demonstrating it even now. So, you know, we're able to accrete unto ourselves a greater and greater appreciation of the union of mind that can be more and more creative as we eliminate the obstructions in our mind that have been implanted there through subscribing to other ideas that are separate from that true flow, if you know what I mean. So I'd just like to say that, you know, it's like it's a creative energy, and you can create whatever you want. If you're connecting into distortion fields, you're going to project and perceive distortion fields, and that will be your experience. If you realize that there are distortion fields running through your templates of your hologram, you can actually transmute those distortion fields and bring higher connections of true form or true flows of elemental construction back into your biological form, and you can emanate those into your world, and you can actually perceive a world that you truly desire through a whole mind which is in self-control. So that's the sort of things I talk about. That's my answer to that one there, Joel. So come on up. Come on up, I hand over the mic.
Well, I'm glad I asked you that question because, as you know, people have this idea of God as being, you know, super religious, super this and that and all that. And maybe God is super, but I'm glad you clarified that for us. Where does duality and good and evil come into the picture? You have made a lot of references to the Bible, but then you've also made reference to the fact that you were raised in a church and you weren't really subscribing to that anymore. Where does that leave you, and how would you classify your book? Is it religious? Is it spiritual? Is it just a statement of fact? How would you classify it exactly?
Yeah, it's a three-pronged question there, Joel. Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not religious. I've come out of any kind of form of religion. My book would be an introduction to metaphysics, yes, because the teachings I'm pointing the book towards, it's a thing called Kathara, K-A-T-H-A-R-A, Kathara. It means light, sound, one. It's about the electromagnetic tonal frequencies of encryptions of light and sound as they come into the holographic expression through the control of your own consciousness. And it is actually basically creation mechanics. It's metaphysics. It's 15-dimensional physics. And my book points people towards metaphysics. Meta meaning beyond physics, beyond physicality. So it's like beyond the physicality, there is an unmanifest side that is creating this physical reality. So, if this physical reality is unable to be changed from our mind here, there must be a mind beyond it that can actually change it, and we can do that and rearrange it. So it's pointing people to something which is a 15-dimensional system of 3D realms, or you might say harmonic universes. It's pointing towards, if you want to say it in this way, at the moment in this earth we are living in what we might call density 1. It's a very dense structure and has three-dimensionality. It has 1, 2, 3 dimensions of up, down, left, right, front, back, and all the different sensualities that come into it as a body of appreciation in manifestation. So this is, okay, it's a place where you can, what we call, lay down your DNA strands of living memory matrix. So you're here to experience things, to actualize things, and all of them are recorded into your biological computer as cellular memory, and that is what you are replicating into your auric field continuously as a projection of the phonons and photons, perhaps you could say that way, electromagnetic tonal frequencies, mathematical encryptions of what we call a lattice work of control signatures that would actually open and shut gateways of perception. So you're actually living in a 3D plane here, and it's under the control of your own consciousness, and it's in intermingling fields with many, many other members creating a hologram. The Earth is creating a hologram through its own consciousness, and so we're living in a field here on this density. But there are other densities that we can go to, and we can transcend the limitations of the density here. So we can rise up in consciousness and migrate our consciousness to higher dimensional fields. That's okay. But the problem is, in this field at this time, there are major distortions in the Earth template and the energies that run the hologram. So you might say there's a base pulse rhythm on the Earth template that sends frequencies to all the species on the Earth, and the species on the Earth are honed in and tuned into the Earth base pulse rhythm of the template, and we're controlled by the Earth basically until we can transcend any personal identity here. So there are containments and controls in the magnetosphere. There are many different density layers of controls, you might call the infranet, the dermanet, that actually relate directly to our DNA, the epigenetic overlay of our DNA, how the DNA expresses, shuts off and on certain circuitry within the DNA, how the inner core beneath the DNA, the unigenetic underlay, controls the opening and allowing of new frequencies to come in from other dimensional fields within us. So there's actually many, many things to understand in the 15-dimensional physics that we talk about in the Kathara. And that's what the book is pointing towards. It's pointing towards how you can actually run your own hologram through understanding the structure of consciousness in the 15-dimensional physics through what we call the 12-tree Kathara grid, and how all consciousness links in together through the structure of the perfect living spiral upon which all things are built and manifest and come into reality. So it's like it's an amazing teaching. My book really is just to lead people to the teaching. I understand a certain amount of the teaching, and I am experiencing a certain amount of transformation in my life and a certain amount of power coming to me in the awakening through my knowledge of the alignments and the what you might say, the true configuration of consciousness. As you see it, you start to appreciate it. It's not just some nebulous thought that we're going to, shed this body and lay it down to dust and then migrate through another doorway into some other experience. There are immense energy repercussions evident in our own incarnational contracts on the planet, and to understand how we have come into the situation we're in at the moment and how we can actually overcome it is quite an amazing thing to understand, because there are many, many, many factors coming into it, and we can overcome the burden of the body. We can transfigure the atomic structure. We can realign the templates of our multidimensional structure. We can regenerate our body back into a living light structure and go into any space-time continuum and into any form. We can do that through the knowledge of the truth, through the knowledge of true alignment. Truth to me is true alignment. Perpetual motion flows of regeneration in the restructuring of your biological anatomy in communication with all other holographic parts of the unity. And to find that within yourself is what the teaching's about. It's how you create your hologram, how you have been shut down, how you are continually being drawn back into the black hole siphoning system through not knowing who you are and what you are. And now's the time to find out about it, because we're in a very, very important point in time when there is, you might say, an acceleration of information and controls running the hologram of the Earth. And it's up to everyone to actually say, hey, I would really, really love to find my alignment, my true alignment with the perpetual motion flows of the true creative energy and the physics of creation. I want to know how that happens so I can bring myself out of this drag. I can bring myself out of this drag that's dragging me down into black hole destruction. I can lift myself up into light and liberation. And that opportunity is right here, and the book points towards that. The book points towards that. I'm not a full teacher of it. I am one who loves it and is learning it. I'm learning it, and I think it's quite important anyway. So I'm going to hand that over now to you, Joel. I don't know what the time is there as far as the half-hour intro, but yeah, I'm certainly open to questions anytime you're ready to finish the intro. So hand over the mic.